One of the biggest goals of most ancient coin collectors is a collection of the 12 Caesars. So obviously the 12 Caesars was, I believe, started basically because of a book written by Suetonius in 121 AD during the reign of Hadrian, going over the early history of Rome's transition from the Republican era into a more imperial era. So today I'm going to give a rough guide on collecting Today I'm going to give a rough guide on collecting all 12 of these Caesars collection of Aurei. So obviously you can collect 12 denarius, you can collect 12 as, you can collect 12 dupondus, but I'm specifically going over the Aurei, as that's a little less data to look at than everything else. In this, I'll be answering the following questions. What is the most common Aurei of each Caesar? How much might that one cost? Where is the easiest place to find it? What is the most valuable Aurei of each Caesar? How much might that one cost? How much will a full collection in total cost? And are these coins gaining value with respect to gold year over year, or are they losing it? Are these coins going up in USD valuation year over year or not? So before I jump into every single one, it'll be a little longer. If you would prefer the too long, didn't read section, I'm first just going to quickly list everything off, tell you exactly how much a total collection valuation, if you had all 12 Aurei, would roughly be worth. And then for the most common one, and then also one for the rarest and how much that might be worth. So as far as collecting what would be the most common Aurei of each of the 12 Caesars. So obviously we have Julius Caesar, we have Caesar Augustus, we have Tiberius, we have Caligula, we have Claudius, we have Nero, we have Galba, we have Otho, we have Vitellius, we have Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. So those are all the 12 Caesars. Collecting an Aurei of each of those 12, a collection like that, as far as a low valuation price, so mid-tier, low to mid-tier of the most common Aurei is going to cost you $116,000 to $270,000 US dollars for all 12 of them. If you want the best coin, most rare, most valuable coin of each and every single emperor, instead of that 116 to 270, you're going to be looking at $3.1 to $7.5 million for just 12 of those coins. So, listing off what is the most common and most rare of each Caesar. Caesar, we have CR or Crawford 466. For Augustus, we have RIC 206. Tiberius, we have RIC 29. Caligula, RIC 1 or 17. Claudius, RIC 80. Nero, RIC 52. Galba, RIC 164. Otho, RIC 7. Vitellius, RIC 106 or 94. Vespasian, RIC 28, 840 or 699, assuming that you want a portrait of Vespasian and not any of the other Caesars. Titus, RIC 110 or 114. Domitian, RIC 560 or 747. As far as the rare, incredibly valuable kinds, if you're trying to find the best of all of these different Caesars, for Caesar himself, you would be looking for a Crawford 452. Augustus, you would be looking for an RIC 536 or 538. Tiberius, you'd be looking for an RIC 23. Caligula, you'd be looking for an RIC 9. Claudius, you'd be looking for an RIC 3. Nero, you'd be looking for an RIC 1. Galba, you'd be looking for an RIC 222. Otho, you'd be looking for an RIC 13. Vitellius, you would be looking for an RIC 2. Vespasian, you'd be looking for an RIC 1538 or 1119. Titus, you would be looking for an RIC 118. Domitian, you would be looking for either an RIC 681, Calico 806, or an unknown number 2. So, if you would like to stick around for the more in-depth, thank you for staying. If not, power to you. Go look at those coins, try and catch one, try and get everything you can. So starting off, the first regular minting of the Aurei was done under Julius Caesar. although there were some minted earlier by Sola, though in a different amount. This is the first in a real decent amount of quantity. So I actually haven't gone over Caesar in any of my videos, and by the way, this will be a lot less in-depth than every other single one of my videos. So if you look at all the other ones, I have Augustus currently right now through, I think, Vitellius, of in-depth, every single coin minted by that emperor, how much it's roughly worth, how many times it's sold over the past few years. Caesar's incredibly easy to go through. He only minted 5 different Aurei, which makes him my favorite Caesar. Under his consulships and dictatorships, his most common is RIC or Crawford, or RCC, or Crawford 466. This coin was minted in Rome in 46 BC. The coin was minted alongside Praetor Aelius Hirtius. It features the deity Vesta on the obverse, and on the reverse is a Roman war trumpet, a jug, and an axe. This coin is probably going to cost you around $8,000 to $16,000 US, as long as you're not trying to buy like the best possible one from Numismatic Ars Classica. If you are not just trying to buy any Aurei minted under Caesar, and you're instead looking for the most valuable, you're looking for an RCC or Crawford 452. This coin was minted sometime from 48 to 47 BC, although it was likely right before the Battle of Pharsalus. Allegedly, there are only 10 of these coins floating around. The female on the front is unknown, which technically the RCC 466 is the same way, as I'm assuming it's Vesta. It could be Venus, Pietas, or Clementa. The reverse features some Gallic items on it, including a shield and a carence, which is a kind of instrument. This coin is going to run in the neighborhood of 280 to 960,000 US. So breaking down the other ones, the second most common we have here is Crawford 475, which accounted for about 15% of the sales over the past 10 years for Caesar, and then Crawford 481, which accounted for about 32%, or for about 5% of all of Caesar's sales. And then lastly, we have Crawford 456. All these kind of, for 475 at least, kind of middle of the road. It's a little more expensive than 466, and then the others are on the higher end, but not obviously quite as rare as 452. Our next Caesar is Augustus. Augustus had quite a few different Aurei minted from his reign, which according to RIC was from 32 BC to 14 AD. So I did not include coins before then. I know you can. Technically it was, like 38 or so BC around the time, or maybe it was 42 even, when coins began showing up with Augustus on them. I only have the data for 32 BC to 14 AD, but his most common coin was RIC 206. This coin accounts for about 31% of all coins auctioned off in the past 15 years for him. This coin was minted sometime between 2 BC and 4 AD. This coin features Gaius and Lucius on the reverse, which those were his grandsons through Marcus Agrippa. This was during the time that Augustus was frantically searching for an heir, as Tiberius was in his self-imposed exile. This coin likely is going to cost $4,500 to $9,500 USD after all fees and such, if you aren't trying to buy the most pristine one. If, on the other hand, you are trying to buy the most pristine one that you can find, look no further than RIC 536 or 538. These coins are basically identical, with just the word Caesar on the obverse and Augustus on the reverse. They both feature a cow walking right on the reverse, and Augustus on the obverse facing either right or left. That's the only difference between these two coins. We don't know where this coin was minted or when, but we can at least say that the amount minted was very few, and the dies used to mint were of great quality. If you're lucky enough to be in a position to buy one of these, it's likely going to cost around $390,000 to $1.95 million. So way, way steep up there. Our next Caesar is Tiberius. Tiberius reigned from 14 AD to 37 AD. Tiberius was the best to look at, excluding Caesar, data-wise, because he only minted 7 coins and didn't mint a whole lot of them, or people melted down the coins afterwards because they did not really care for Tiberius, i.e. the Tiber with Tiberius. RIC 29 accounted for 51% of all the coin sales of Aurei for Tiberius. The obverse of the coin features Tiberius with the words Tiberius Caesar, Divine Augustus, essentially. The reverse states Pontiff Max with a woman sitting a spear, or with a woman sitting holding a spear. This coin was minted all the years of his high reign and was minted in Lugdunum. This coin is going to be around $7,500 to $12,000 on the low end. But if you aren't just looking for the most common, you're not just trying to get one, you're trying to get the best one, then you are looking for RIC 23. RIC 23 was minted sometime during Tiberius's reign through 14 AD to 37 AD in Lugdunum. This one is so rare because it also has Augustus on the obverse. So you can see there Augustus bare right with a star above his head and the words Divus August Divi F. So, Divine Augustus. And the reverse is the same exact as the obverse rather is the same exact as the previous one, just Tiberius laureate right. This coin is going to be selling probably in the neighborhood of $19,000 to $195,000, depending upon where you can find it, the condition, so on and so forth, but obviously quite a bit more than the $7,500 that we were just looking at. Next Caesar up is Caligula. So Caligula reigned from 37 to 41 AD, obviously known as the Mad Emperor. So starting off with Caligula's most common coin that you can find pretty easily, it's going to be between RIC 1 and RIC 17. Both of these coins account for about 37% of all of Caligula's sales. So Caligula's RIC 1. So this coin was minted in Lugdunum from 37 to 38 AD. It features Caligula's head bare right on the obverse with the words C Caesar, Ug, Germ, P, M, TR, POT, COS. And then on the reverse, we have Augustus facing his head facing right, and stars to the left and right of him. The other most common coin, because we don't have any that are just half the sales like we do for Caesar, Augustus, and Tiberius, is RIC 17. That was minted in 37 to 38 AD. It was minted in Rome. So this one features Caligula and Germanicus. Caligula's head laureate to the right with the same exact words as previously, and then Germanicus, who obviously was Caligula's father, head bare right. So either one of these coins, if you're looking for one, bear in mind only about 40 have sold over the past 10 or so years. It's probably going to cost you around $38,000 to $76,000 US. But our most valuable coin from Caligula is RIC 9. This coin was minted also from 37 to 38 AD and Lugdunum. The obverse features head of Caligula bare right, same words as all the previous ones, and the big portion of it, once again, is Divine Augustus with his head to the right. This one actually has some words, and he's wearing a crown, so radiate right. Divus Augustus Pater Patri. This coin, if you find it, only 6 have sold in the past 10 or so years, is going to cost you around $150,000 to $500,000 US. Next up we have is Uncle Claudius. Claudius reigned from 41 AD all the way to 54 AD. The most common Claudius Aureus is RIC 80. It accounted for 12% of all sales. That's 103 sales over the past roughly 10 years or so. This coin was minted in Rome, and on the obverse it features Claudius, laureate right, with the words Tiberius, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus, PM, Trib, POT, PP. And then on the reverse we have Agrippina the Younger, with a draped right wearing crown of corn ears, hairs and long plait behind, and of course Agrippina Auguste. This coin, if you're going to find it, is probably on the lower end, going to get you $7,500 to $15,000 US. And once again, only 103 sold in the past 10 years. But if you're looking for an incredibly rare Claudius Aureus, you're looking for RIC 3, only of which 2 have sold in the past 10 or so years. So very, very rare. This one was minted in Rome from 41 to 42 AD. It features Claudius, laureate right, and a triumphal arch on the reverse, with an equestrian statue left between 2 trophies. So Tiberius, Claudius, Augustus on the obverse, and then D. Germanus on the reverse. This coin is going to run in the range of $110,000 to $135,000 US. So once again, very sought after, valuable coin. Next Caesar we have is Nero. Nero reigned from 64 AD to 68 AD. Nero reigned from 54 AD to 68 AD. His most common coin is RIC 52, which accounts for 22% of all of his Aurei sales over roughly the past 10 years. And in this case was 409 total sales. This coin was minted in 64 to 65 AD in Rome. It features on the obverse Nero with his signature no chin and beard to the right, with the words Nero, Caesar, Augustus. And on the reverse we have Jupiter seated on a throne holding a thunderbolt in his right hand and a scepter in his left, with the words Jupiter Custos. So this coin is going to range you about $3,500 to $7,000 US. And that's, once again, if you're not trying to find the best quality one for Numismatic Ars Classica. Whereas if you're looking for an incredibly valuable Nero Aurei, you're looking for RIC1. So RIC1 accounts for only 1% of the sales. There are quite a few sales for it, as Nero just had a whole bunch of coins minted. This coin was minted in 54 AD. The obverse shows a bust of Nero to the right and a bust of Agrippina the Younger to the left. They're both facing each other. The obverse states Agrippa, Augustus, Divi, Claudius, Neronus, Caesar, Mater. So obviously Nero's mom. And then on the reverse, you have a legend surrounding oak wreath enclosing EXCS. It says Neroni, Claude, Divi, F, Caesar, Augustus, German, Imp, TRP. So this coin, incredibly rare. If you find one, it's probably going to cost you around $18,000 to $180,000 US. So our next emperor up is Galba. Galba reigned from 68 to 69 AD, which would then become the year of 4 emperors. Galba's most common is RIC 164. This was minted 68 to 69 AD when he reigned. In Rome, the obverse contains a head of Galba bare right, with the words Imp Sir Galba Augustus. And the reverse contains an oak wreath with SPQR OBCS on the reverse. So most common coin, sold 41% of all Galba Aurei were this coin. Once again, because Galba reigned so short, that's only 98 sales. But this will probably range at $7,000 to $25,000 US, depending upon, quality, where you're getting it. Whereas if you're trying to find the rarest possible Galba Aureus, you would be looking for RIC 222. This accounts for 1.3% of all of his Aurei sales, or only 3 sales over the past roughly 10 years. Once again, minted during his reign, 68 to 69 AD. It was minted in Rome. The obverse contains the bust of Galba, laureate right, with pretty much the same words, Imp, Sir, Galba, Caesar, Augustus. And the right has Virtus, standing front, holding a perizonium with the right hand and leaning left on the spear. So Virtus is one of the pantheon of Roman gods that Galba probably personifies best. So, you know, other than virtue, it's very strongly associated with military strength and courage, which usually shows Virtus not naked, but in military attire. But nonetheless, that definitely is something that you could personify Galba under as well. Next, Emperor up, or Caesar up, rather, is Otho. So, Otho reigned in 69 AD, didn't reign very long, one of our shorter reigning emperors. His most common coin was RIC 7, which accounted for 54% of all the sales of his coins, which is only 53 total coins over this time period. So, RIC 7 was minted in 69 AD in Rome. It shows on the obverse the head of Otho bare right with the words Imp, Otho, Caesar, Augustus. And on the back we have Securitas, draped, standing left, holding a wreath in right, and a scepter in the left. Securitas PR. So this coin is probably going to be ranging you in the price range of $14,000 to $44,000 US dollars. If you're not looking for the most common coin, though, and you're looking for the most valuable Otho coin that you can find, you're looking for RIC 13. So RIC 13, which was 4% of all of Otho's sales, only 4 total sales for this coin over about 10-year time span. Pretty much exactly the same on the obverse as the most common coin. The difference here is we see victory draped, advancing right, holding a wreath in the right hand and palm in left, and it says Victoria Othonus. This coin is going to range around 180,000 to 300,000 US dollars. Our next emperor, and almost the last emperor in the year of 4 emperors, is Vitellius. So I think everyone knows who Vitellius is. Obviously didn't die in the greatest of ways, and basically got pushed into trying to become emperor just by, you know, being the military leader in Gaul. But anyway, his most common coins, I say coins because he's got a group of them that are pretty close together, is RIC 106 or RIC 94. Both of these account for 23% of all of his sales, or 49 sales. So RIC 106 was minted once again in 69 AD because that's when he reigned. It has the head of Vitellius laureate right, with the words A Vitellius, Germ, Imp, Augustus. And on the reverse we have Vesta, veiled and sitting on a throne, with the words Pontifex Maximus on it. So this coin probably going to sell you 10,000 to 25,000 US dollars. And I would lump that in as well with RIC 94, is you could probably get for that amount. So RIC 94, little differences. The obverse is very similar, same words and everything. The reverse, we see Lucius Vitellius, Togate seated left on a Cyril chair, extending right hand and holding eagle-tipped scepter in left, with the words L Vitellius Cos 3 Censor on it. Now, if you were looking for a really valuable and rare Vitellius Aureus, and not just the most common one you could find, you are looking for RIC 2. There has only been one singular sale for this coin ever, or at least in my data pool. This coin features Vitellius with his head facing left, and the words A Vitellius Germanicus Imp Augustus. And on the reverse we have Clementa, draped, seated left as well, holding a branch and a scepter with the words Clementa Imp Germanici. So this coin, if you're able to find it, which I doubt you are going to be able to, is going to be worth 580 to 725,000 US dollars. So very, very expensive coin. Now, moving on to the end of our year of 4 emperors. Emperors, we have Vespasian. Vespasian reigned from 69 to 79 A.D. He was the beginning of the Flavian dynasty. He was followed by his 2 sons, Titus and Domitian. So he minted a lot of coins with his Caesars on them, Titus and Domitian, to try and legitimize them. So he minted a significant portion of coins, and by far the most amount of coins and most different coins than any other emperor. So it makes him a little bit harder to look at than the others. But if you are looking specifically for Vespasian's head on this coin, we're going to go with the 3 most common that he's in, and that is RIC 28, RIC 840, and RIC 699. Those 3 account for only 9% of all of his sales, but only 9% of his sales is 238 total sales, so quite a few. I'm going to go through each of those. So RIC 28, Vespasian with his head facing right, and then you have Pax on the back. So words Imp Caesar Vespasianus Augustus, and then Cos Iter Tr Pot. As far as RIC 840, we have Vespasian yet again, this time with a bull standing right with the word Cos Vii, and obviously minted in 76 AD in Rome. So that was the 7th year of his reign. 7 years, that's 69. That's how you get Cos Vii. So, and then our last one is RIC 699. This one was minted in 74 AD, also in Rome. Features Vespasian, head to the right, same words as before. And then in this one we have Fortuna standing left on base, holding rudder and cornucopia, with Fortuna August on it. So those 3, like I said, if you're aiming to get one of those 3, which is the most common, you're going to be spending 3,500 to 7,000 US dollars. Now, if you do not care if the Caesars are on it, I'm also going to lump in RIC 787, RIC 918, and RIC 954. Those 3 are more common than 840 and 699 anyway, and all 4 of the coins, 28, 787, 918, 954, account for 16% of Vespasian's sales. The thing about this is it really isn't going to change how much it's going to cost to get these coins. They're still going to be 3,500 to 7,000 US dollars, as long as you're not looking for the greatest and best RIC 787 out there. So RIC 787 features Domitian, laureate to the right. RIC 918 also features Domitian, laureate to the right. And RIC 954 features Titus, laureate to the right. Just an interesting note here. I feel like you commonly hear that Domitian was kind of the redheaded stepchild, that Vespasian didn't really care about Domitian at all and gave him no responsibilities and whatnot. It is a little weird, though, because, the more common coins that we see now today have Domitian on them, actually, than Titus. So, we see 2 here with Domitian. Both of them occur more frequently than one with Titus. Just an interesting thing to note. If you are looking for the most expensive Vespasian coin that you can possibly find, you are looking for either RIC 1538 or RIC 1119. Only 3 of these coins have sold. So obviously they're 2 different coins, but only 3 of them have sold. So RIC 1538 was minted in 70 AD. We don't know where it was minted, but it features Domitian on the obverse with the words Domitiano Caesari Princ. And then on the reverse, we have a shield lying on 2 crossed spears with the words Imp T Caesar. So obviously, once again, trying to get the family into the limelight per se on coins. RIC 1119, though, features Vespasian. So Vespasian laureate right, minted in 71 AD in Lugdunum. It says Imp Caesar Vespasianus Augustus. And then on the right we have, I'm assuming this has a lot to do with the Judean rebellions, and likely is why it's so sought after, even though, you know, it's also incredibly rare. But it says Judea seated right under palm tree, hands are tied in front. So obviously stopping the rebellions in Judea. And then on the coin we have Judea divictiva. So if you're looking for either one of these coins, it's probably going to range it in the range of 350,000 US dollars all the way up to 1 million US dollars. So very, very rare coin. Next up, our next Caesar is Titus. Titus reigned from 79 AD to 81 AD. Obviously, famously, we have the eruption of Pompeii, or rather the eruption of Mount Vesuvius destroying Pompeii and Herculaneum during his reign. So Titus, his most common Aurei are 110 or 114. These two account for 17% of all of his coin sales over the past 10 or so years. 110 was minted in 80 AD in Rome. It features Titus laureate to the right with the words Imp Titus Caesar Vespasian Augustus. And on the reverse, it has a dolphin coiled around an anchor, and with basically just with dating on it, essentially. As far as RIC 114, we have Titus, once again, laureate to the right, with the same words on it. And then on the reverse, we have an elephant cuirassed to the left, and once again, more dating on it. So if you're looking for one of these two coins, it's probably going to range you in 5,500 to 11,000 US dollars. If you're looking for the most valuable Titus Aureus, you are looking for RIC 118, though. This one features Titus's head laureate to the left, with the words Imp Titus Caesar Vespasian Augustus, and on the reverse you have a square seat draped, winged with a thunderbolt above. Pretty complicated drawing, and not something that was minted a whole lot of times. Obviously, the dies on this were exquisite. The coins that I've seen sold of it look amazing. It only accounts for 0.7% of all of his sales, and only 2 coin sales. If you're looking for it, it's probably going to be around 70,000 to 145,000 US dollars. And finally, our last Caesar is Domitian. Domitian reigned from 81 AD to 96 AD, I think. Need to look that up. Need to fact check myself. I'm 100% right. Cool. Domitian reigned from 81 AD to 96 AD. His most common coins are RIC 560 or RIC 747. Both of those accounted for 10% of all of his sales, or only 45 sales over the past 10 or so years. So this emperor, I think everyone knows, not exactly widely loved. So coins for him I think are a little bit rarer, especially for the fact that he reigned for, he reigned for 15 years, and we're really not able to find near as many for sale as, say, some of these emperors that have reigned for far less time. Also, he was a lot more, I would say, fiscally responsible than some of them as well. He actually minted quite a few different variants, but a lot of those variants are just incredibly one-offs, which we'll get to once we get to the rarer coins. But the most common ones, so RIC 560 was minted in 88 AD. It was minted in Rome. The obverse features the head of Domitian laureate to the right with words Domitianus Augustus. And the reverse contains Germania seated right on shield with a broken spear below. Obviously, Rome was had a thing for trying to conquer Germania for quite a while. And the words on the coin are Germanicus cos, 9 or 14. Germanicus Cos 14. So, RIC 747 was minted in 92 to 94 AD in Rome also. Features Domitian's head laureate to the right. Same words as before, and pretty much the same exact coin, almost, just minted in a different year. So either one of these coins is probably going to range you 7,000 to 22,000 US dollars. But if you're looking for one of the rarer and more valuable coins, you're going to be looking for RIC 681, Calico 806, or an unknown number 2. So RIC 681 features Domita with her facing to the right. Obviously a very intricate hair knot or whatever there, very, very unique. With the words Domitia, Augustus, Imp, Domitian, Augustus, Germanicus. And on the right, we have a peacock. I'm not sure if this is the first peacock that was shown, but I think it is. A few emperors actually do have a peacock after this on some of their coins. I think Hadrian's one of them. But anyway, it's a very unique animal to be showing on your coin with the words Concordia Augusti. Our other very valuable Domitian coin features Titus, so Divus Titus Augustus, so divine Titus, Titus facing the left, and Julia facing to the left as well, so Julia Augusta Divi Titiev. So obviously trying to show his brother some reverence. This was Calico 806, minted in 82 AD to 83 AD. And finally, one that I could find no references to in any coinage catalog is I'm calling unknown number 2. It was minted in 82 to 83 AD. This one is very similar to RIC 681. Obviously, it still has the peacock standing to the right. The real difference between these two is just really the wording on the obverse. So it just has Domitia Augusta Imp Domitiani. So little different from 681 just as far as wording, but other than that, very, very similar coins, almost identical. So these 3 coins account for 8 total sales over the past roughly 10 years, or 1.8% of all those sales. And if you're trying to get one, it's probably going to range you about 110 to 380,000 US dollars. So, I've gone over all the coins that you're supposed to be looking for. Now I'm kind of just going to break down overall views of all of the emperors on this. Not going to be going over any specific Aurei, but just all of them grouped together. So looking at all the data, we'll see how many coins were in this data pool for all of the emperors. Like I said, Vespasian had by far the most amount of coins sold, followed by Nero, and the least common is actually Otho. So we have, interestingly enough, Otho being the least common, followed by Caligula. They minted roughly the same amount of coins. Interesting thing I always hear is that Otho minted so many coins for how long he was in office, or rather, maybe not in office, but reigning as emperor. And I really don't see that being the case. So the interesting thing to me is that Vitellius and Galba both, today currently are having about double the sales of Otho. So it doesn't really seem to be like a huge disparity as far as like the time they reigned and the amount of coins that were minted. The one good picture, the one picture I don't really have of all of this data is how many of these coins are actually preserved. How many of them were so hated that potentially the coins were damaged or remelted or reminted into different coins for that reason. My assumption is Caligula that's probably something to do with his. He reigned 4 years, but he has less for sale than Vitellius and Galba by quite a bit. Almost, he's in the range of Otho, who reigned for a very, very, very short time. You also see people like Titus and Domitian not reigning or not minting a whole lot. I think Domitian specifically, he reigned for 15 years. I think that is one of the longer on this list. Obviously, we have Augustus reigning for a very long time. He reigned longer than his dad, 10 years, and who has the most amount of coins available out there. Nero reigned from 41, I think, Nero reigned from 54 to 68 AD, so 14 years, roughly comparable. And he minted, about more than 3 times the amount of coins. So just interesting things to look at there. And then Augustus, once again, reigning the longest and not minting near the sheer amount of coins. So we can see a great pie graph here. And by great, I mean very confusing, and shows how many different coins there really are through all of these. And just, how common some of these more common ones are. This isn't incredibly helpful to look at, but the most common coin that you could possibly find for any of these Caesars is Julius Caesar's Crawford 466 that we went over at the beginning of this video. And that accounts for 5.5% of every single Aurei of the 12 Caesars. So that's going to be your easiest one to find. I don't believe it was your cheapest, but it's going to be the easiest one too. So if you're looking at, hey, where do I find these coins? Like, where's a good place to buy them? If you're asking this question, you're either very new into this, and most people probably won't ask this question, where to buy them. I will say that the vast majority are going to be Numismatic Ars Classica, Classical Numismatic Group, Heritage, and Conquer. And then I'd throw Roma in there, even though technically Roma doesn't exist anymore. So someone's going to be picking up their slack, I assume. But, these 4, just vast majority of sales. If you're looking to if you just want to find a coin, you don't care how much you're going to pay for it, go to one of these places. You're going to find it. If you're looking for a deal, potentially a deal, you don't want to, you want to get one of these more common ones, and you would prefer not to pay double what I said on it. Look at any of these auctioneers at the bottom end here. Any of them will be good for you. I like Numismatic Namen. They're the best I've had to deal with, or Navil Numismatic, or Savoca. I care like all those, but I'm also poor. Not really, but I'm not going to buy $1 million coin. So those are the good places to start. If you're looking for the super rare coins, it's always going to be Numismatic Ars Classica, occasionally Classical Numismatic Group, and one that actually isn't showing up on here is Numismatic Genvensis. They have some pretty rare ones as well. Those are the places you should be looking. So here we can kind of see, roughly how much coins are worth over time for everybody. This I actually don't really like looking at. I think it looks like garbage. So we're actually going to remove our legend here because I don't like this. So we're going to have them all lumped together. We're going to be looking at 2012 onward. I technically have data all the way back to 1990, but just on some, Numismatic Ars Classical and Classical Numismatic Group has data readily available before this point, but nobody else really does. So I'm only going to look at 2012 onward and the average book to market value. What does that mean? That means how much did it sell for compared to how much the gold in it is worth. I could try and track inflation on here if people really wanted that. I don't think anyone's going to be asking that question, though. But I like to compare it based on the valuation of the precious metal that's in it. I think that's a decent way to look at it. If gold's gaining a whole bunch of value, why shouldn't these be gaining some level of value? If they aren't even somewhat tracking inflation, it's a collectible. So, I wanted to see, is that something that it's going to do? And I think it's pretty obvious from this graph that that is not something that it does. Over time, it's going to be becoming devalued and devalued more and more. Our peak year was 2016, and this is all of the coins data, so you can't necessarily say this for every RIC or every emperor, but you can look at every emperor because I've done a video for every single one. That being said, it seems like over time these coins are technically losing value. So I wouldn't consider trying to invest in these to make money. Invest in these because you enjoy them, because it brings you joy, and you love holding a piece of history in your hands. So that's all I'll say about that. I also have this very, very confusing graph right here. And this is going over year by year how many coins were sold by each emperor, and what is their average book to market value, which I was kind of showing on the page before. So there are some that stand out quite a bit. Vitellius had a big year in 2007, and then there are other. And as a matter of fact, what we're going to do is we're going to filter by year. So is greater than. We're going to get rid of everything. We're going to get rid of everything 2012 and before on both of these graphs. But first, looking at our average book market value, one of our more expensive coins to get is Caligula. That's not shocking, I think, to anyone. And another one is Otho. Once again, those two are the rarest coins that we had on this. If you're looking for an Aureus and you're struggling to find one, it's probably going to be these two, unless you're looking for a specific coin from one of the emperors. If you're looking for just anything, these ones are going to be the hardest. As far as the count of lot, we're going to filter this one as well the same manner. And you'll see that, for Otho and for Caligula, if we can find him on here, where are you, Caligula? Yeah, there he is. I think he's right next to. Oh no, he's right there. For Otho and Caligula, not many are sold. That's why they're so valuable. Not very shocking. If there's a giant brick on this graph on the right, likely the brick's going to be small on the left. So for instance, Vespasian has a whole bunch of coins and his values are nothing compared to some of these. Whereas Caligula has a tiny little spot and, it's more valuable. Obviously, supply, demand. Anyone who has a basic understanding of economics, I think, can understand this. So, looking at the coins that are the most expensive, most rare, most valuable coins on here, our top three are all Augustus, which is very interesting. He has some specific coins that are incredibly valuable, and he's more sought after, I think, than most. But our number 4 is Vespasian, actually, which I think was very interesting because Vespasian minced the most. But then you just really have, just a huge swath of randomness in here. The interesting part, I think, that I found in here is that Nero I don't think he's anywhere to be seen at the top page of this. I don't think Nero's not very rare, sought after, valuable compared to all the other emperors, from what I've gathered looking at all this data. So everyone else seems like they have, at least a couple coins that are just like crazy high values for sales, and Nero, I really haven't seen that. And then Augustus, despite minting, the third most, he has very, very rare, valuable, sought after ones, and I think that mainly is just for how important historically he was. I think compared to everybody else. Obviously, you'll find some Caesars up there as well for the same reason. And finally, I wanted to graph this by Caesars in order of how they reigned. Unfortunately, I don't have that. So over time, emperors had different monetary policies. They changed how many coins were minted from a pound of gold, I believe is how they did it. So starting off with Caesar at the top, his coins weighed significantly amount more than by the time we get to Titus, Vespasian. We actually saw Domitian change the tide of that. So at the time of Vespasian and Titus, their average coin sales, and keep in mind this is average weight of today's coins being sold, it's about 7.15 pounds, or 7.15 grams rather, not pounds. But for Domitian, obviously he ramped up the weight going into those Aurei, and his average is 7.5. I think you see a pretty big range in the weights of his depending upon when it was minted. But obviously you see him kind of turning the tides of, coin, I wouldn't say debasement because he's just using less weight for them. He's not changing the amount of silver, although he did do that in denarius. All these roughly have the same amount of gold in them percentage-wise, but some emperors just changed the weights. So, we have Augustus 7.8, and then by the time that we got Tiberius, he dropped it a little more. And then we had Caligula and Claudius all up here. But finally, once we get to Claudius, Nero says, yeah, we're gonna cut the coinage, the gram weight of an Aurei, and that kind of continued on past him. And once we get past Domitian, you'll see that continue as well. So, one last thing I wanted to show was how many different coins were minted by each emperor. And when I say that, I mean how many different variations of an Aurei are there for each emperor. And Vespasian is by far the number one, and he was the most annoying to look at, and I haven't released a video on him yet, but I will. 152 different kinds. Augustus had 119, but you see the difference in length of reigns between Augustus and Vespasian, and it's pretty stark, the difference. 32 BC all the way to 14 AD. It's a lot more time than just the 10 years of Vespasian. Domitian is number 3. Domitian's interesting, and like I said, I'll go through his data here soon. He has a lot of just like one-off coins that don't have a whole lot of 1, 2, 3 sales over his whole reign, or 1, 2, 3 sales over the past 10 years, so nothing crazy. The ones of note, I'll say Caesar. I mean, it's obvious he didn't mint that many because he wasn't really an emperor. He wasn't really controlling coinage that much. And also this was kind of before the time period of emperors minting their faces on coins, like you see with everyone Augustus on through. Their face or someone in their family's face is on the obverse of that coin, or it's a divine Aurei, someone's trying to gain legitimacy from someone that's already died. Tiberius also only 7 coins. Like Tiberius, you're a horrible person, but thank you. You make your coins easy to try and understand data from. Otho reigned for no time at all. So, I mean, minted very, very few different variations of coins. And then Caligula, he was too busy trying to make his horse consul, so he didn't make many coins, I guess. But yeah, that ends our look at the 12 Caesars. Once again, I have videos scripted out for Vespasian and Titus, and I'm just about done with Domitian and Nerva as well. I have all the data compiled all the way through Commodus, so I plan to go all the way to Constantine. That will take me a very long time. It'll probably be years. For right now, all of this data is up until the end of 2024. I may change that at some point. And at some point, once I get through every single one, instead of just looking at 12 Caesars, we'll be looking at, Julius Caesar all the way through Constantine. So, we're looking at 60s BC to 330s AD. That's a long range of time, and a lot of things changed about the Aureis during this. So I think I understand why people break it down as far as just the 12 Caesars, there's a lot more that Julius Caesar and Domitian have in common than Julius Caesar and Constantine. A lot changed in that time period. But nonetheless, thanks for listening. Let me know if you have anything else you want me to look at, anything that you think I'm missing in this, and I will try and include it. Okay, bye.